Just crop this to make me look bigger. It's fine.
You're still gonna look tiny.
What is up, Watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Henson. More on them later. And today we're doing a big watch Q&A. So if you're interested in learning about complicated Patek Philippe and all of my little nuanced thoughts, some of my recent purchases, what I'm most interested to add to my watch collection next, double stamped watches, and the current Omega catalog. Stay tuned because today's episode is going to be quick, and fun, and infactual. Infactual is not a word. I've had a couple of drinks.
What shoes are you currently wearing?
Oh, I'm wearing cowboy boots, but more on those and my recent spend history in a bit.
First question, are perpetual calendars worth the premium over annual calendars?
It's a good question. Okay, I guess the first step in answering this question would be to differentiate perpetual calendars from annual calendars. Perpetual calendars, the more expensive of the two, have a perpetual calendar. They know the calendar perpetually. So not only do they account for the amount of days in each month, unlike a regular watch, which, has no idea how many days are in the month. So you always have to skip at the end. How, what a burden that is, right? It accounts for all of the days in the month, be it 29, 30, 31, but also the leap year. Perpetual calendars know when it's a leap year, which is useless. Fun, because it's fun to be reminded how rich you are. Annual calendars also account for the amount of days in each month. They understand what month it is and they know how many days are in that month. But they do not know the leap year. So every 4 years, your annual calendar is wrong. I know. How disgusting. That's savagery. What a plebeian. A little bit of history. So the perpetual calendar complication dates back to 1762 when it was originally designed in a pocket watch. It didn't make it into a smaller form until 1889, and only then was it an appendant. It did not go into a wristwatch until 1925. Fast forward to 1996, significant time difference, 60 years, and we've got the annual calendar, right? It actually took watchmakers an extra 60 years to figure out how to make something that was less complicated, which usually isn't the case. Usually the case is how do we complicate our watches more and more and more and raise the bar. But the annual calendar introduction into the world was an interesting thing. It wasn't just a technological advancement because it was a little bit of a way, it was outdated, right? Why would I want to do something that was lesser than what I already know how to do? But it gave Patek Philippe, who introduced it in 96, the ability to not only say that they invented a complication, which they did, but fill in a segment in their catalog. It gave them the opportunity to say, this is maybe a great introduction into complicated watchmaking. And the jump from regular watchmaking to complicated watchmaking is rather hard. So a stepping stone really was a very smart, product move. Okay, a little bit about annuals and perpetuals, and then I'll tell you which I would say you ought to buy. The two big annual calendar references from Patek Philippe, which is really, the manufacturer of annual calendars, are the 5035 and the 5146. The 5035 trades in the 20s, in the mid 20s, and the 5146 trades in the 30s. Okay. These watches are slightly different. Okay. But the only difference that matters to me is the date window. To me, the date window on the 5035 is not good. I think it's unacceptable, seems like a strong word, but I don't think it's as good as it needs to be. So for me, I wouldn't put the 5035 right on the map in my consideration. That being said, I can completely understand why someone else would. Someone else that really wants to own a piece of complicated Patek Philippe. Right? Like the value on this in the mid-20s is absurd. If you can get over the date window, or if it doesn't bother you, or if you disagree with me, the 5035, no freaking brainer. That being said, 5146, solves that problem. I think the date window execution was just ever so slightly better, and for me, this watch is basically a no-brainer in the mid-30s, whether it's in gray or in cream or whatever color you decide to go with. I think it's essentially a flawless watch. Take it up a notch, and you can go into the next level of annual calendars, which are either moon phase or chronograph, the 5905 and the 5205 respectively. These watches can be had in the 50s and the 60s, obviously $1,000 range. And again, it's a lot of money, so to use the word no-brainer is a little bit silly. They're very expensive, but they represent a hell of a lot of value. The fact that these watches are ever so slightly more expensive than a day-date is silly. These watches are from the Holy Trinity. They're complicated. They're precious metal. They're hot horology. Like this is mature watchmaking. Not to say the day-date isn't mature, but this is a whole different world of watchmaking, and I really love them. And that is why I will almost always recommend an annual calendar over a perpetual, because the perpetuals are much more expensive. Even a basic perpetual is 2 to 3 times the cost. A 3940, a watch that I used to buy at $29,000, $32,000 is now in the 60s. It's crazy. And that was an entry-level perpetual in yellow gold. It's a whole new world. Collectors have caught up to the fact that they were underappreciated years ago, and now annual calendars are the buy. Perpetuals, even more complicated with chronographs, right? Like we talked about before. They're in the hundreds. They're essentially unattainable for the vast majority of people. Not to say you shouldn't work for them, but they're silly money. Is there collector value in them at a long term? Sure, there's collector value. They have upward mobility. But for people that don't have that sort of wild budget, they just have a still wild, but slightly less wild budget between $30,000 and $60,000. Again, it's an absurd amount of money. These are great watches. I go annual calendar almost every time.
What would you say to someone that's toying with the idea of getting a complicated Patek but needs a real push?
I hate to push people to buy anything. I just don't like that. I really want every sale in any one of my businesses to be very comfortable and consensual and just really, really happy. Same way. It sounds funny, but it's the same way I date. If you leave me on red, I'm not going to text you again. Like we're not going through this, right? We're not doing this, right? That being said, when some people, when it comes to watch buying, do need the extra little push, right? They do need they want the extra little push. They want someone to tell them, hey, you ought to do it. So what would I say to someone that's looking to buy a big boy Patek? I would say, in a nutshell, you deserve it. You only live once. And what the hell's the money for? That's what I would say. And I think that the type of person that's considering a complicated Patek, those messages would resonate.
What's your best purchase of late?
I bought a couple of things lately. For going back a couple of months, I bought this Gerald Charles watch that I love. This is the Maestro Squalette. This is the Skeleton. This is great. I love it. I wear it all the time. But this is not my most recent purchase. The thing I bought most recently, I bought these boots that I'm wearing, these cowboy boots. These are the Lucchese Hudson boots in black cherry, ostrich. Now I'm only beginning my journey into the cowboy, faux cowboy, pseudo cowboy, pretend cowboy culture. Just like every Ralph Lauren wannabe has to embark on at some point in their life. The story behind these boots, very simply, is my sister and I went to Nashville for a couple of days, and we had a blast, and we were drinking and eating and doing a little sibling bonding. We had so much fun, and after a couple of drinks, we walked by a Lucchese store, and she looked at me and was like, "Come on, let's go in." And I was like, God, I don't want to go in, because I know that as soon as I go in a store and I try something on, if I like it, I buy it. If I don't like it, I don't buy it. But if I do like it, I do. There's no restraint after that. And I said, "No, come on, let's just keep walking." And she said, "No, come on, take a look." Anyway, we walked in, put on the boots, and I bought them, and I love them. I think they're incredible. They're so comfortable. I'm a big fan now. All of a sudden, they make me a little bit taller. I think they added solid inch, which would put me at 5'11" now, which is really big. So Lucchese Hudson in black cherry ostrich. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Henson Shaving. If you guys follow the Theo and Harris channel, you know that I just never cheap out. I like nice things. I like products that serve me well. I like products that feel good. That's why I have an extreme adversity toward subscription razors, towards disposable razors. I have zero time nor patience for the uncomfortable shave, for the nicks, for the irritation, for the scratches that come along with cheaping out on your face. And that's why I am a loyal client of Henson Shaving. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer. No wonder why they've got their craft down so well. That makes parts for the International Space Station and has for the Mars rover as well. And they're bringing that precision engineering and those skills to your shaving experience. Let me explain to you very quickly what makes for a bad razor. A good analogy is a diving board. Razing blades are just like diving boards. The longer the board, the more wobble, the more nicks and the cuts and the scrapes. A bad shave isn't actually a blade quality problem. It's a length problem. It's an extension problem. That's why Henson, by using aerospace grade CNC machines, makes metal razors that extend so minimally, just literally 0.0013 inches, which is less than the thickness of a single human hair. And that's why Henson is able to actually give the most secure, safe, and comfortable shave. And it gets better. A Henson razor has built-in channels actually to evacuate hair and cream, making clogging, which is such a nuisance in shaving, virtually impossible. Henson really does make the best razor, and frankly, they're extremely affordable too. Once you own a Henson razor, it's only like $3 to $5 a year to replace their blades. Just another reason why I love and trust Henson, why it's the only razor that I'll use. I shave once a week. I shave on Sundays, and Henson just gives me such a beautiful, close, and comfortable shave. It's time to say no to subscriptions and say yes to a razor that will last you a lifetime. So visit hensonshaving.com/Theo and use the code Theo, and you'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just to make sure you add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades right now when you just head on over to hensonshaving.com/Theo and claim your offer. Thank you so much to Henson Shaving. Everyone, head on over there and begin a better shave.
What watches have you been interested in lately?
I've been, I'm always scrolling. I never fail to be amazed by stone dial Rolexes, even though I've known about them for years. I'm just amazed by them. Period. I love the color. I love the precious cases and bracelets. I've also been interested in mother of pearl, be it from Lang & Söhne or Cartier. This is. I don't have a temperament for this right now. Again, this is in many ways what caused me to look at the Gerald Charles, but I'm so fascinated by Audemars Piguet's open work watches, particularly their jumbo. The new jumbo open work, I think, is maybe their best open work ever. I think it's far superior to the previous open works, be it their time only or be it their tourbillon. I think those watches were great. They're incredible watches. There's no doubt. I'd be very proud to own one, but I think that the new tone on tone, yellow on yellow, jumbo, open work is a masterpiece. I really do. I would adore that watch. I would appreciate that watch every single day in and out. I would admire it. There's not enough money in the world for the amount of watches that I want, I think. There's so much, history in the skeleton. I'm just endlessly fascinated by the skeleton. I think it's a complication. It's a feat of design and finishing. Again, that's what really drew me to this watch. I just can't believe the attention. Again, not only to the finishing, because if you finish something that's designed poorly, it's not good, right? But it's both. It's this harmony of design, architecture, basically, and finishing, and color. I mean, it's just amazing what skeletons can be. I think they were invented back in 1706 in France, and they've since been taken on so many forms. Originally very, very ornate, and now through Audemars Piguet, basically industrial, aggressive, right? Yeah, they're industrial and aggressive, and I think they're incredible in this form. I really love them. And what's crazy is Audemars Piguet had skeletons back in the mid-1950s in a tank style that I think is really one of the greatest watches I've ever seen in my life. I would adore this watch. Someone I know, I hesitate to say a friend because we only met briefly, but someone I know recently purchased one of these watches, and when he did, I was astonished by the beauty. I had seen them before, but but wow, these watches that were made maybe between 1925 and 53 are flawless. These are flawless Audemars Piguet watches. So yeah, these are the watches I'm interested in right now.
Can you explain double stamped watches?
Double stamps, more specifically, they're called retailer stamps. So watch brands years ago, they still do it a little bit, but really it was more prevalent years ago. Watch brands would use other authorized dealers or jewelry stores as points of sale. Right? Be it Tiffany and Company, which still has their relationship with Patek Philippe, but Tiffany and Company had relationships with a lot of brands. They had Movado, they had a Rolex, obviously. They had a lot of brands at one point, right? You could find them on Concords. There are a lot of brands of Tiffany. There's Gaudi, which is an authorized dealer in Milan. There's Bayer, Hermes sold watches very, very briefly. Here's an incredible Rolex Daytona. Demanded a tremendous premium because it was an Hermes watch, but there's not even Hermes on the dial, which does beg the question, if it's on the dial, it's ridiculous anyway. Who's going to pay a couple $100,000 for a couple of letters? It's like $100,000 a letter, I guess. It's kind of silly, but the provenance, if it's on the dial, it remains on the case back, I suppose. But it does take a more specific buyer to not want to show off like that. He's not going to take off his watch every 2 minutes. But anyway, there's another one we have in the shop right now. There's a Rolex by Serpico e Laino, which was the only Rolex dealer, the preferred Rolex dealer in Venezuela for some time. They were friends of the Rolex organization and family in the 20th century, and they opened up in Venezuela. And these watches are incredibly rare and beautiful. I think that extra little line of text adds just endless stories and depth to a watch. I could not be more of a fan of retailer stamps, of double stamps. They are incredible. That's why any chance I get to buy one, I do. Watches are unimportant to the time. They can't speed, slow, or stop it, and our phones tell it better. But as vessels for memories, they know few rivals.
What is the best way to connect with you online?
On a social level, if you want to see what's going on, what I'm posting, clothing-wise, watch-wise, Instagram's always a good place, at Christian Zerone. More importantly, LinkedIn is a big place for me. I know that sounds like I'm so old, and I'm a father, I'm an old man now, but LinkedIn is a great, professional networking place. And if you'd like to add me to your network, you can over at Christian Zerone, particularly if you're in the marketing space. We have a creative agency called LMF NYC, and I'd love to chat marketing with you over there. Otherwise Instagram.
Favorite current production Omega?
It's hard to say. I mean, I love a lot of Omega's watches. It just comes down to what is my style. I love their white gold Speedy. I hate that that's my answer because it's so cliche, but I really love their white gold Speedy, and that canopus gold is just. It's just insane. Not only the weight, but just the shimmer of that watch is unbelievable. I don't know if I'll ever buy it, but I really love it. I think it's a great piece. In steel, I would go, I just love their shades of blue that they've recently done, be it with the Ultra Deep, which is a watch that I think is just super interesting. I'm a big Ultra Deep fan. I love the James Cameron by Rolex. I think it's a phenomenal watch. But the Ultra Deep gives it a big run for its money. It may even be cooler. It was a watch that Omega specifically designed for a dive that was being done in a submarine called Limiting Factor that was operated by a gentleman named Victor Vescovo in 2019. The submarine set a record and dove to 10,925 meters. That was the inception of the model, and then Omega went and made a production, model, right, kind of on the back of that, which is rated to 6,000 meters. I mean, the entire ultra deep collection is amazing. The original models with the NATO strap have what's called manta lugs because they could articulate with the pressure at those depths. It's just an amazing watch. It's not a watch I could ever wear. It's far too big, but it's just a beautiful piece, well finished, well designed, and a feat of technology and of history, a feat of resistance to pressure, which is a very important part of watch history. So that is my favorite non-precious metal Omega today. That's it. If you guys like this episode, go ahead and like it. If you want more content from Theo and Harris, including much more behind the scenes, explicit content, go ahead and join our community at The Zero. The link is down below. There's a 7-day free trial, so try it out. Just sign up and come say hi. Shoot me a DM. I'd be happy to chat. And if you like the content after that, then you can subscribe or not. It's just fine either way. I'm just happy you're viewing the content, at least for a time being. Hope to see you on over at The Zero. That's it. Straps, as many of you should know, bring a whole world of potential to mix up your watch collection. They breathe new life into watches. They help you pull out different colors. They give them new personality. Straps can be very addictive. I know people with 2 watches and 10 straps because it adds so many facets to a collection in a fairly easy and fun way. So that's why they become such a part of the Theo and Harris culture and identity. I think we sell more exotic straps than almost anybody because I just love them so much and I love sharing them with you.